everyone, welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be doing a DIY lunging set. So let's get started. Before we get started, I didn't mean to make this video so long, so I'm super sorry for that. Next time I'll try to make it into 2 parts or just try to make it shorter. So I hope you enjoy the video. Bye. So what you will need for this DIY is 3mm ribbon. I'm using like this sky blue color. You will need pliers, and you will also need wire cutters, but mine have like wire cutters already in them. You will need some white felt, a piece of 20 gauge wire, scissors, and you will need 10 6mm jump rings. And lastly, you will need 2 lobster clasps. So first you will want to find the horse that you are going to be making the lunging set for. Next, you will want to take your white felt and your scissors and cut a thin strip of the white felt that is about 3 inches long. Now that you are done cutting your piece of white felt, measure it on your horse, and if it seems to be too long, which mine is, then you can just cut it to where it meets his stomach, like that. Next, you'll want to take your 3mm ribbon, and you'll want to roll a piece out. Then you will want to take 2 of your 6mm jump rings, thread those on the ribbon. Once you've got them threaded on, fold over the piece of ribbon and glue it down. Make sure you give it a little bit of space so it can move freely here. Add hot glue and be careful not to burn yourself because hot glue is hot. Then press and hold. Once you're done, cut off the edges so we have nice, clean edges. Like that. Then once you are done cutting off the edges, take your strip of white felt and glue down the jump rings right here. Once you have glued down the piece of ribbon all the way down the white piece of felt, go out about 4 inches and cut it. Once you have cut about 4 inches, now put it on your horse. If you don't know how to put it on your horse, basically, I'm going to try my best to explain this, but loop it through both jump rings. Then split them apart and loop it through the last one here at the end, like that, and then pull. And if it seems too long, you can always cut it. Now, before we make the parts that go here, we are going to make the halter for the lunging set. So grab your ribbon and thread 1 6mm jump ring onto it. Then fold it back in half and do the same thing that we did over here with those jump rings. Basically just fold it over, add a little bit of glue, and then press down. And for my younger viewers, please have an adult help you with the hot glue because it is hot. So then press. Once you're done pressing it, cut out the excess glue. Just like that. Just measure his face and cut about a 1/2 inch. After you have cut off a 1/2 inch, grab another 6mm jump ring and thread it on. Then do the same thing, loop it over, put a little hot glue, press down, and then cut the stuff that cut out the extra glue. Then once you have something looking like this, take your ribbon, and then just place it like that. Make sure that you are gluing it on the bad side. As you can see, this is my bad side. Like that. And then press it down with your fingers. And you can wait for the glue to kind of cool down, but I just like doing it immediately. Then once you have pressed it, just cut off the excess glue to clean up those edges. And you should have something that looks like this. Once you have cut it 1/2 inch, thread a jump ring right onto the ribbon and then take it, making it so that the good sides are on the inside, and then take it, thread it through the one at the end like that, and then fold it over and glue. And this part can be very tricky since we're messing with tight spaces. Now I have it glued all the way, making a loop. So after you've glued and pressed, just make sure you cut off the edges because nobody wants to see excess glue sticking out. Then once you have cut off the excess glue, flip it so that the good sides are facing out, not the sides where you can see where you glued the ribbon. And double check that it fits your horse. Now take your ribbon and that loop you just made and thread it through one of the jump rings on the side of the loop. Then, like always, make sure you leave a little space so the jump ring can move freely, and just glue on that little tab there. Once you have glued and pressed and cut off the edges, which I just did, you're gonna have something that looks like this. Cut off about an inch and a half, depending on what size your horse is. I'm doing an 1.5 inches. And then repeat on the other side. Then you should have a little something that looks like this. Next, take a jump ring and thread it, thread it on the side like this and bend over, making sure you have some space so that the jump ring can move freely. Then once you've got that, glue and press and press. and then cut the edges off. Repeat that on the other side. Once you're done, you should have a little something that looks like this. 2 jump rings on the 2 sides. Now, before we get started, I'm just going to double check that it fits my horse. This is what it should look like on your horse. Now that we've made sure that it fits our horse, now we're going to take our ribbon again, and we are going to slide it in through 1 jump ring. It doesn't matter which side it's going to be on. Then fold over the ribbon, leaving some space for the jump ring to move freely, and glue it down. Then once you have glued it down, you can wait a little or you can just press it down, but be careful because it is hot. And then cut out any of the glue that came out when you pressed it. Now you should have something that looks a little like this. There's a ribbon hanging off of one side. Now you're going to cut about a 1/2 inch. You're going to take it and thread it underneath and loop it over and glue it. Whoops. There we go. Just glue it. And then press it down. And then cut off the glue that squeezed out. There we go. Woo! Come on, it just doesn't want to stay in my hands. And then you should have something that looks like this. Here's what it should look like on a horse. It should just go under its neck right there. Now, before we get started on the next part, we are going to have to make a buckle. So take your 20 gauge wire or paper clips. I have used paper clips before and they work great. Put it in between your pliers like this. Hold it down and then bend. And you should get like a little L. Then take that next to the way you just bended it. Take it and bend it again to make a U shape, and then take that and bend it so then it's like a O, and then take the side that is open, still nice and long, take that and bend it, and then bend it again, and then you should have a buckle that looks like this. You can press it all together like that, and then take your wire cutters, mine are right here, and cut off the excess, and then you should have a little something that looks like this. Now take your halter and take a piece of ribbon, and on this side, the side that's facing you guys, thread the ribbon through the top and then fold it over. Make sure you leave space so the jump ring can move freely, and then glue it down. Once you have glued and pressed, cut off the squeezed glue, because you want to make sure that it looks nice and realistic. Then you should be left with something like this. Then after that, cut off about a 1/2 inch on this side. And then take the buckle we just made and thread it through one of the sides. It doesn't matter. And if you're finding it hard to thread it through the buckle, you can cut it so like it's slanted like that. And then that just makes it way easier to thread it through the buckle. So thread it, and then once you have it like this, basically, thread it through the other hole. And once you have it threaded, it should look like this. It should be looped over the middle part. Once it is looped over the middle part, take the excess and glue it down. Just like that. And then press it and hold. And then cut off the squeezed glue. Oops. And then you should have something that looks like this. Now on the other side, take your ribbon. And this is like the easiest part. Thread it through and glue it down like we've been always doing. And then press. And then cut off the extra glue that squeezed out. And then cut about 3 inches, so right about here. Then once you are done cutting the ribbon, thread it through the buckle. And like I said, if it's hard to thread it through the buckle, you can just cut the edge so it's slanted like that. And then it makes it way easier, especially if you made your buckle small. So thread it through the top part here. And then thread it through the bottom part. And then pull it. And then you should have something that looks like this. Now let's make sure that the halter fits our horse. And if you don't want to make a lunge to that in just a halter, then this is the way to make it. So just slide the loop over his muzzle, and then slide this part over his ears, and then tighten it so it stays on. And then you should have something that looks like this. And if it's too long, you can just cut it. I like cutting it slanted because then it looks fancy. And then once you're done cutting it like that, add a little glue on this end as well as the other side too. And wait for it to dry, or not dry, excuse me, wait for it to cool down. And then press. So the edges don't fray. And if you don't want to burn yourself, you can also use clear nail polish. Then cut the edges of the glue. Sorry you guys can't see this. This part is very hard, but just cut it like that. And then there you go. Now take your lobster clasp right here and take a jump ring, split the jump ring so that it's open. Then take the lobster clasp and thread that jump ring through the hole of the lobster clasp, and then with your pliers, close up the jump ring. And repeat that with the other one. You should now have 2 of these. Next, take your ribbon and your horse, and on the side, glue the ribbon to one of the sides here. So I've got some glue on it, and then I'm just going to glue right there. Then once you have it glued right there, just snip it about 2-3 inches, like that. Now you're going to want to do the same to the other side. Now you should have something that looks like this, one ribbon on each side. And to keep these edges from fraying, I just like to add a little hot glue there and then press my finger there. And then you can do that to the other side as well. Now for the last part, take your lobster clasp with the jump ring and thread the ribbon through the jump ring, like that. And then take it, glue it, and make sure the jump ring can move freely. Press down. And cut the glue that squeezed out. And then repeat that on the other side. Then you should be left with something like this. So what you do with these lobster clasps is you hook them on to these side jump rings like that, and do the same with the other one. And then you would hook a lead rope under here. And before you go, I'm going to show you how to make a quick and easy lunge line. So take one lobster clasp and one 6mm jump ring and do the same thing. Split that jump ring in like that, and then thread the jump ring through the hole of the lobster clasp, and then use your things to swish it together. Then, once you've got that, take some ribbon, thread it through like that, and then glue it down. And then fold over, press, and then cut off the glue that squeezed out. Then cut about, I don't know, 5 inches. So let me show you how long, about this long. Then take it, fold it over, and make sure you leave a little hole at the end, and then take it, glue, press, and then trim. And then you have a lunge line as well with a little hole for your dolls to hold. And then with the lunge line, take your lobster clasp and clip it to that jump ring right there that is very loose on the halter. And then you can thread it over your doll's hand, and then she can be lunging her horse. So thank you guys so much for joining me today, and I will see you next week at 1. Bye! Bye!